Hey, how's it going, guys? Political Spatula back at it again. So, I've been seeing another propaganda channel floating around, and it's a little frustrating to see these channels posed as news. It doesn't seem like it because all they do is talk about Donald Trump's shortcomings and talk about the good things they think the Democratic Party's doing, which, typically is not good for America. And this is another channel that exactly does that. Never talks about any of the good things Donald Trump does and just whines around about the things that he is doing. And always is glazing and batting for the Democratic Party. And he comes off as this neutral, nonpartisan dude who's just giving you the news. Another person who's just trying to come off as someone just giving you facts. And that's not really the case. I want to get just a couple of things out of the way really quick before I start the video and give you some real context and some real facts that this guy is absolutely missing out. So, under the War Powers Resolution, a president can deploy troops for 60 days, then a possible extension by another 30 days to withdraw those troops. Now, the Congress would have to approve him for the troops to stay longer, and they didn't. And so a lot of the blame falls on Congress, and it's weird because it's always 100% of the Democratic Party and like four Republicans that vote against Donald Trump. So really, the blame for this whole debacle can fall on Congress. And I'll give you a couple more reasons why. Not only could they have extended that so we could have got more out of the deal, Congress wields immense leverage over peace deals. And the 14-point deal with Iran is negotiable. Congress could scuttle the peace deal if they wanted to. So they wanted to end the war, but not Donald Trump's peace deal is effectively what's happening to make Donald Trump look bad. These sort of channels age like milk in the sun. It's disgusting. And I've had some of these scripts written down for a very long time because I've been planning on doing this for a while, and me and my sister have had to sit down and do a bunch of research. And nothing we've said has aged so poorly as these people because, like I said, they're not giving you facts. They're just twisting the news. And they keep these videos up and it's shameful. It's actually shameful. And a big part of the deal too is about allowing oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz. And it's at $70 a barrel right now. And gas companies are gouging the American people. And of course, Philip DeFranco doesn't talk about that. He doesn't talk about gas companies purposely raising gas prices to gouge Americans and make Trump look bad. Why? But I'm going to skip most of the video because it's him covering the deal just with snide remarks towards Trump. So we're going to skip into it a little bit.
Failure, saying people will see it and judge. And yeah, he appears to have a point, with among other things, people pointing to, for example, Trump repeatedly saying that the US will not give any money to Iran. Trump's even frequently slammed Barack Obama for the fact that his administration paid Iran $1.7 billion in 2016, though that also is technically Iran's own money paid back with interest in order to settle a decades-old dispute over military equipment that had never been delivered, right, due to the 1979 revolution. But in any case, because this MOU that Donald Trump just signed says that Iran will be provided with at least $300 billion to repair the damage that's been done to the country over the course of this war.
Obama did give them $1.7 billion, but he also unfroze $50 to $100 billion in assets so they could fund their nuclear weapon program. Isn't that weird? And this money is not coming from the United States. Like I said, the deal has changed, and of course, he hasn't covered the deal changes yet, and I doubt he actually will. Even if the deal is completely flipped on its head and the United States annexes Iran, this guy probably wouldn't cover that. So at some point, this guy says Trump's Iran deal is worse than Obama's, but remember, Obama's deal was set in stone, and Donald Trump's not. And he's a businessman at heart. So if he spots a bad deal, he's going to take charge and he's going to take control of it and look for new leverage on the deal. This guy just thinks he's an incompetent fool, not a businessman.
In the MOU, to start, I'll say you have Iran reaffirming that it shall not procure or develop nuclear weapons. So honestly, That's barely notable. Right, Iran, they actually ratified the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, unlike Israel, and they similarly reaffirmed that commitment under the Obama deal. Even US intelligence before the war said they weren't doing this. Though also now, like whatever they're saying in public, you have a lot of experts saying, hey, Iran may actually be more incentivized than ever to get nuclear weapons.
They have been working towards nuclear weapons forever. We have clips of our politicians since like the 90s talking about how Iran is getting weapons of mass destruction. And Iran had 60% uranium. A nuclear reactor requires 3 to 5%, which is what they keep claiming they were doing with the uranium. You cannot do anything with 60% uranium but further refine it to weapons grade uranium. And this country has been chanting death to America for forever, for ages. And this guy's gonna act like, oh, they weren't gonna build a nuke. They weren't gonna build a nuke. They had simulated nuclear strikes on New York. And they weren't gonna build a nuke. Where's this guy getting his intelligence from? The fucking moon?
Or 97% of its stockpile completely out of the country. And the current roughly 1,000 pound stockpile, which is enriched to a much higher level, nearly weapons grade, only accumulated after Trump pulled the US out of the deal. And also, like when it comes to uranium, what is down blended can also be up blended.
Like I said, that's ridiculous. The uranium stockpile didn't start right after Trump left the deal. They had 20% purity uranium in 2013. That was long before Donald Trump. Wasn't it Philip DeFranco? And what can you do with 20% purity uranium? Further refine it to weapons grade because there is nothing you can do with that uranium. This guy has no faith in Donald Trump, and it always just blows up in his face.
Then, the other big question is whether Iran will agree to limits on future enrichment. Earlier reporting suggested that Iran, they agreed in principle to a suspension, with the only question kind of left unanswered being the length of time. And while Trump, he initially wanted a permanent ban, he then went down to 20 years, and he recently even suggested he'd be open to 15. But again, this deal that's just been signed, it only says that the two parties have agreed to discuss the issue of enrichment and other
I don't see how they're going to enrich much uranium, Philip, because did Donald Trump not blow up their uranium refining plants? You keep paying Donald Trump as an incompetent leader. I am under the impression that this is just propaganda. This deal is still completely negotiable by even the time I'm recording this video, and it's only gotten better from what this guy said. And let's also not forget that this is the same dictatorship that murdered and raped a girl on death row. If this guy truly cared, he would be asking for Congress to extend the war. Because, like I said, Congress is more to blame for this than Donald Trump, but he either didn't do research and is stupid or is knowingly making propaganda.
the little common sense. The MOU also hands Iran other wins, including a commitment from both sides to try to, quote, refrain from interfering in each other's internal affairs, which could be seen and is being seen by many as Trump agreeing not to push for regime change, which is something that he said it was an aim of the war early on. You then also have the US saying that it undertakes to remove its forces from the proximity of Iran within 30 days after the final deal, which is yet another thing that seemed like an impossible ask just a few months ago, though, again, there are no details about what this would actually look like. But then also what's
Okay, so yeah, what he just described is something Donald Trump already has to do. It is called the War Powers Resolution. This guy's a clown. Donald Trump has to do that. It's not something that Donald Trump is doing just because of this new fancy deal. And I also don't know why he reacts like this whenever Iran might get overthrown, and Donald Trump wanted that to happen.
agreeing not to push for regime change, which is something that he said it was an aim of the war early on. You then also have the US
See, why does he act like, oh, that's so ridiculous? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Like, change the regime over there. Why doesn't Philip DeFranco want to change a regime that oppresses women so badly? Their human rights violations are escalating executions and crackdowns, systematic gender oppression, prosecuting minorities, prison abuses, and due process. Uh, Iran is one of the highest execution rates, with a significant spike in political hangings thousands of peaceful protesters, journalists, lawyers, and human rights defenders have been locked up and killed by security forces. Women and girls face deeply entrenched systematic discrimination. The state enforces compulsory hijab laws and violently targets women leading civil disobedience or feminist campaigns. And this guy acts as though that's an absurd ask that these people shouldn't be in power anymore. What is wrong with Philip DeFranco? Like that face he did. What was that face? Like, why do you support such a group, man? What is going on in your twisted brain that you support people like that?
But then also, what's not in the MOU stands out greatly, including any mention of Iran's ballistic missile program, even though a key objective of the war had at one point been the total destruction of that program. And in fact, the idea that Iran's ballistic missile program served as a conventional shield that would one day enable the regime to develop a nuclear weapon, that served as a Trump and co argument for why Iran had posed an imminent.
Okay, so what's worse, a nuclear bomb or a missile? Let me tell you, Philip, why keep painting Donald Trump as the bad guy? The more I dig into this, the more foolish you look. What can kill more people? The bomb or the missile, my friend? And them having a missile doesn't help them get closer to having nuclear bombs. Did Nazi Germany have nuclear bombs? No, they didn't, but they had missiles, didn't they? And you know what? Lots of countries have missiles and don't have nuclear bombs. That's so weird. You're drawing connections to make Donald Trump look bad when you yourself, when put under the microscope, look like an idiot. Come on, get your head out of your ass.
What am I going to do? Am I going to let Saudi Arabia have missiles, but they can't have them? Yes, sir. Doesn't work that way, you know? It doesn't work that way. And missiles aren't the problem. Missiles they hurt a little location, but they don't blow up the planet.
And Donald Trump has a point. He actually has a point. And right now it seems like Philip DeFranco is upset because his regime was just absolutely smacked in the face. So why he's making this seem like a win for them is unbelievable to me. Stop painting our enemies in a good light. Stop painting rapists and murderers in a good light, Philip. That is not a good look for you. That is a bad look.
The chief negotiator on this particular project has not well served the president.
Which, if I can for just a second, this part, guys, this is just opinion. Ben Shapiro, you're a pussy. I didn't know if I should include this in the video because you kind of just don't fucking matter. Like sometimes you can look at your numbers and think they matter, but then people that actually do this job know that your numbers oftentimes do not add up. Right? You'll have an episode come out, it has 100.
That's this is absolutely ridiculous. This guy's a child. He talks about his views to like ratio doesn't add up. This video has 585,000 views and 25,000 likes. Your view to like ratio doesn't add up, Philip DeFranco. All of your videos are about glazing the enemies of the United States and painting Donald Trump in a bad light when there is more ammunition against the left than there has ever been. And not one of your videos is about, oh, the leftist has done this bad. This is what AOC's done bad, or Mom Donnie ran New York out of money. Anything. But he has to support our enemies.
Paul, who's been a critic of the war, supporting the deal. And then you're also seeing some people on the left who welcome measures like the lifting of sanctions. But really, wherever you land or wherever you're coming from, it is clear that Trump has failed to achieve his own objectives, completely crossed his own red lines, and likely achieved fucking nothing that could have been won by just negotiating from the beginning. And
this guy is a genuine child. Just negotiating from the beginning. They've been calling for the death of America since you were born, pal. Since I was born. There was no negotiating with them since they've been trying to make a nuke since before 2013. You are delusional. You blame Trump because you hate Trump. You need to take a long look in the mirror, my friend. A very long stare into your soul and figure out what is eating you up so much about Donald Trump as a human being. Because this is absurd. There was no making peace with these people. We couldn't extend the war any longer because it's not Donald Trump's fault. It's Congress's fault. But please, paint it as Donald Trump's fault so I can keep making videos like this proving you wrong. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. And have a good one.